I pride myself on bringing my audience the truth about many of the products that I review. Recently, we saw the launch of the PlayStation Portal, and it's been met with a lot of controversy. Some people really hate it, and there's a few that actually say that they like it. A small viewer review about the technical specs, more so a commentary on why I believe PlayStation Portal is actually a really phenomenal device. This device is not for everyone. It's horribly underpowered, it has a very poor Snapdragon processor in it, a lot of the specs are subpar. However, what it lacks in the technical specs, it seems to make up in the ergonomics and how it feels in your hand. My only small gripe is that the thumbsticks may be a little small for those of you that have really big hands, like myself, but after playing with it for about 4 or 5 hours, I really didn't notice it, and I actually felt it quite comfortable. You know, there's a lot of competing products out there as well. I have the Steam Deck. I have countless other retro gaming handhelds that I really do enjoy and I like to play. But the retros are kind of in their own category because they're not going to be playing AAA games, but you really need to temper any of the reviewers that you are listening to that strictly play on these retro devices. In terms of the Steam Deck camp, the Steam Deck is a really great machine. I actually have it, I love it, I enjoy it, but one of the reasons I enjoy it is because it's a Linux box in my hand. But because of that, it's really, really weighty. I don't really feel like ergonomically it's a great device to travel with. I don't feel like it's a great device to have in your hand. And to be honest with you, I get kind of a fatigue when I hold it just because it's so heavy. The flip side of that is I can easily connect it to any monitor and I have a full functioning Linux device. So for those of us who code or like to tinker and know Linux, that's a really awesome feature. I end up using my Steam Deck a bit more for Linux type processing than I do for any gaming. And now that I have the PlayStation Portable, I'll probably be using that a lot more than the Steam Deck to play games. Now, does that mean I'm going to be able to go to my favorite coffee shop and play this thing? No, most likely not if they have some type of sign-in wall. This doesn't yet currently have a browser on it. And you need to understand why Sony chose to do that. See, they don't want people buying this and just subscribing to their cloud and being able to stream games. I've run some tests out in the wild, mobilely away from my home, either connecting to my hotspot on my phone or connecting to a Wi-Fi that doesn't have a sign-in page. Now, the thing about this device that you really need to understand as well is that you need a high quality internet connection. I mean, really, to be honest with you, they say you need 15 megs or above. I'm gonna push that up to like 25 to 50 even. I have really strong internet at the house, so I don't have a problem, but I did know some stuttering and lagging when I got below like 15 megs at some other remote places. Now, connecting to my phone via the hotspot was pretty good. It just, again, depends on that speed. And this is okay for me. As long as I have good 5G speeds, I can connect to my hotspot, and I've got a mobile device. And most importantly, while I'm traveling, it's a lot lighter. Now, mixed results when I was out in the wild using public Wi-Fi. Again, it just seems to revolve around the fact how many people on the internet and how much bandwidth you can actually capture at the time, as well as some other factors that you may not know that are working in the background to prevent people from streaming games. Now, I do travel quite a bit, and I have traveled with a lot of my retro devices, as well as the Steam Deck, and I also have a Nintendo Switch. And the Nintendo Switch is really nice because it's super light, but it kind of feels kind of cheap in my opinion. I don't feel like the thumbsticks are really that good, but overall it's a great device if you like playing those types of games. On the other side of that, you have the Steam Deck, which is an absolute behemoth. It just weighs so much. So being able to travel with that isn't ideal. However, if you're on a plane, it's really one of the only systems, along with any other the standalone systems like the retro gamers, that you can play on a plane, because you're not going to be able to connect most likely to any plane Wi-Fi to stream with your Sony. So that is a dig on the Sony. As a travel device, if you're going to be getting on planes or going to hotels, most hotels have these sign-in pages, so it's just not going to work for you. That's where the Steam Deck makes a lot more sense. I can play it in a lot more places. But for someone like me who's not really worried about playing anything on a plane, if I'm going to play something on the plane, I can do something on the phone, but I typically watch movies, listen to music, or do work. Now, in regards to the hotels I go to, that's typically not a problem either, because I usually have 5G cell signal. If I have 5G cell signal with a decent amount of bandwidth, I'm going to be able to use my PlayStation. And saving that weight and just the way it feels on my hand is so important for me when I'm traveling. I just don't want this bulky thing I have to carry around, pull out, and I'm not kidding you when I tell you, my wrists hurt when I hold that thing. For all those people saying that it's trash, it's no good, I really have enjoyed my time with this device. Sure, the normal things, when you boot it up, it's a little blurry, it takes a while to connect, but for me, I think that has something to do with the cache, whether that's shader caching or just kind of warming the device up. And that part really took about 5 minutes. It just was a little blurry and off-putting, but then it seemed to clear up right away. I've had no issues running in my home internet no matter where I'm at. This is a beautiful thing for me because I do like to play on the couch. I like to play in bed. I don't necessarily like to play in front of the computer all the time. I want to be other places. And I do work from home, so I spend a lot of time inside my house and around the surrounding area, and this is something that I know that I can carry with me. Now, who isn't this for? Now, this is not for people who just want to pick something up and play. Understand you have to have an internet connection, and you're connecting to your PS5 and streaming. So in streaming, there's some inherent things that can go wrong, and that's going to happen with any type of streaming device that's pulling a signal over the internet. Whether that's bandwidth wobbles, latency, there's just so many connection points that it can go wrong, especially if you're outside of your house. Now inside your house, some people are reporting that if they get further away from the router, they have stuttering problems or latency issues. I haven't experienced that. My house is pretty well covered, and there's not one area in my house that I had an issue with. I think with this device being $200, you just have to set your expectations right. If you know what you're getting into and you have a certain use case like myself, it's a rather enjoyable machine. Again, I'm harping a lot on the ergonomics, but I can tell you that it's one of the best handhelds I've ever had in my hand. I don't get wrist fatigue. Those smaller thumb buttons really weren't an issue. And we all know the DualSense controller is rather, well, awesome. So if we just take that and split it and put a nice screen in between it, Bob's your uncle, it's awesome. But hell, I have a phone. I can just use a controller holder, or I can use something like a backbone. But I can tell you the experience is subpar. Joysticks are going to be really, really weird and just very simple. The buttons are very plasticky. This whole thing is very plasticky. It's just not an enjoyable experience in my opinion. Now, the other problem with just using your normal DualSense and having something holding your screen is if you've ever used any of those, it just doesn't feel right. The weight is not right. So talking about fatigue in your wrist with something like the Steam Deck, you're not going to have it with this. If you've ever used it, it's just very wonky. So from that perspective, this all-in-one piece is just very similar to connecting something like I just said. In fact, if you did it the other way and you connected it to an iPad or a newer iPad or a newer Android device, you're going to have a great experience because it's going to have probably in most cases have a more powerful processor that's going to be able to either display things a little bit better or stream faster in theory, but I haven't noticed any poor latency with this cheaper Snapdragon that's inside of the Portal. So from my standpoint, I think if you're in the right mind frame, I think if you have the right use case, if you understand this is just a $200 really great feeling accessory that I can pick up and use in my house, I can also take it at limited places and play it, or I can stream off my phone. I think this device really is a winner. This is not meant to be a Steam Deck. This is an accessory, a peripheral to your PS5, and it's something that I think that you should get. There's some things that I think they could improve, but remember, we have the ability to upgrade the firmware, the software. We don't know what Sony has planned, but we also don't know what makers have planned. And if we know anything from the retro market, makers are able to do some amazing things. I don't really see any reports on what's powering this device, but I can only imagine that there's going to be someone smarter than me out there hacking it and making it pretty cool. And even if we don't see that, I do think Sony's going to make some changes. And oh, by the way, yeah, the earphone thing, super annoying. I think it should connect to Bluetooth. With the new Bluetooth protocols, I don't have any problems, and they should have included it. So I will give it that little knock. The fact that we need to have a couple things, but earphones would be nice. I don't want to spend another $150, $200 on a pair of proprietary earphones. Now it does have a 3.5 jack, but who has hardwired earphones anymore? I mean, I do, and I've used them, but the sound, again, it's not great. It doesn't have a great speaker on board, so if you're not going to use it, you're going to just have it blaring out loud. It's not going to give you some deep, incredible sounds. The earphones, again, we're going to depend on your earphones, but it's just kind of a minor annoyance there. It's a really solid device for $200. The way it feels, the way it's made, it's just quality all around, in my opinion. The screen is amazing. Now you can see all the other reviewers, and a lot of them agree with me. I mean, listen, we don't have a crazy OLED screen on this, but the screen at 1080p is really phenomenal. It looks really good. I don't want to have to piece together all this stuff on another tablet that I have, or an iPad that I have, or even my phone. I just want to pick this up, drop in, and play. And for that, it's really, really awesome, and I encourage you guys to check it out. This right here is an absolute winner and an absolute banger. So if you like what you heard, please drop a like. I'm always here to give you honest reviews. My name's Hill Phantom. I'll see you next time.